But I think we sound like a Western band. If you were to look at the overall like kind of bluegrassy scene, bands like us, you know, from across the country, I think that we definitely sound. I don't think we fit the like Colorado Jamgrass moniker exactly, but I do think we have kind of a Western vibe to our music.
Yeah, it's good, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I had listened to it in years past, and I was just to kind of get my brain into like, you know, what are we going to talk about? Just kind of, you know, perusing through, but it's good. It's very tasteful,
Thanks.
which is what I mean. Like I've never been, I'll be the first person to tell everybody, like, I've never been a huge fan of bluegrass. It's just, it's not my thing. But I don't feel like you guys are, I mean, maybe you do pull from that, like, you know, as far as, you know, the bass or the core, but it's definitely very tasteful, and it's you can kind of like hang in with it for a while. I always felt like for me, and like if any bluegrass people hear this, I'm so sorry, but like for me, bluegrass was like, it would just like continue, like, right? It's like, it's almost like a Grateful Dead song, where it just like goes and goes and goes and goes and goes, and I'm like, either you got to be on drugs to like listen to this or appreciate it, or it's like where's the starting, the stopping, where's the hook, where's the bridge, where's the chorus, like what are you doing to get me to believe your story, you know, like, and for me, a song always has to be a story, and that was my biggest bitch with, you know, every bit of music we ever wrote from my band until recent never had a story. Like we would always, it was like, you know, guitarists are fighting for guitarist parts, and like, I want to play here, I want to play here, and Corey's drumming as fast as you can. I'm trying to sing as many lyrics, and they don't fit because the song doesn't make fucking sense. You know, so it's like that was always a big deal with me with bluegrass, was just because I couldn't understand it. Not that it's bad, it's just it didn't make sense in my mind. So when I heard, you know, bands, you know, like Tyler's band or like some of that South Texas, it like has that like slight element only because the band are on the fiddle, right? Yeah. But they're telling stories with the songs, they're telling stories with the lyrics, and holy shit, the fucking hooks are like knockout, and it's like, oh, this is just beautiful. So I get a lot more of that storytelling vibe from your band than I do at least what I know of bluegrass. Oh, totally. Well, a lot of that goes with being an original band, and the bluegrass world is interesting in that way because you know, that you can be a band that does trad songs, like a trad catalog, and you can make a really great living doing that. What is trad? I don't know. Traditional blue, like so instead of like writing original music or whatever, you're curating your own set list with traditional songs from the bluegrass canon. Got you. You know what I mean? Okay. Picking out tunes and songs from you know, past players that you like, or but it's an interesting mix in the bluegrass world of bands that do that, and then bands that do original music, and then bands that do both. So there's a lot of room, though. That's the beauty of it, right? Like, because we have been like totally welcomed into the bluegrass community. We won an award from the International Bluegrass Music Association a couple years ago. And they've been really good to us, and we love the bluegrass world, you know, because we're kind of from that world. But like, it is interesting, man. Like, there's a spot for people that are just ripping tunes that are just out there in the public domain, and that's dope. Because what you get then is really what I would argue bluegrass is kind of about in a lot of ways. Is it is like totally like a tradition thing. You know, bluegrass is a fully American like musical style, hip hop and jazz and bluegrass. Like, those are super American, and it's cool. It's very original. So if you're kind of like into that traditional part of it and into, you know, keeping it going and in doing that, then it's like a pretty cool cause, you know, I would argue. But it's a very performative music too. You know, it's like there's a shit ton of improvising in bluegrass. It's jazz, but at like 120 BPM all the time. Yeah, for sure. So it's dope. I mean, you know, Fred always says that like the dreadnought guitar player, the flat pick guitar player in a bluegrass band is like the Navy SEAL of guitar players, because you just are like, you know, just playing fucking eighth notes, dude. You're just living in eighth note land at 120 BPM. And you're fucking crushing it. You know what I mean? Like, and it's a language too. We talked about that a little bit, but it fully is, man. Like, bluegrass is so ripe for like the meme world that in a way, like, you know, we hear players
like it's a language, like you're just pulling licks, man. That's so much of bluegrass is pulling out chunks of solos from people that you like that have come before you. So to someone that's like has that bluegrass vocabulary, watching someone play, it's kind of like they're playing like memes. You're like, oh, I know that lick, or like, oh, that's that big huge G run that like Del McCurry always, Del McCurry's G run, like, bump down, 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 it's like, that's the shit right there. But you got to love that. And if you don't, man, you're going to super hate it.
I don't super hate it.
And a lot of people do, but it's okay.
I mean, I've been to some festivals and I've checked some stuff out, but it was never my thing. And hopefully nobody hates me for that.
But that's the thing. Well, that's the thing too, though, man. It's like such a wide, it's getting to be such like a cool time. It's a great time to be this kind of musician for us, because the scene is just really vibrant. It's growing in a lot of ways. There's some, it's becoming more of an inclusive environment, being a bluegrass and folk musician here, and it's just there's a lot of cool bands that we're getting to know and be friends with and get around the country with, and so it's a cool time to be doing it for sure.
I mean, it seems like it's granted I wasn't living or breathing it, but like for me, I can see at least it coming, and hopefully this doesn't get like tarnished, like many things that do come into the forefront of like the public, right? But it's like with certain bands that have done really well with it, that do not change. They stick to that like style, and they just had some really kick-ass hits and continually put out great music. It's like it's elevating that, and then everybody else that's in the scene's naturally coming up, right?
Yeah.
And there's I don't know this from firsthand, and hopefully maybe you can explain this, but like I feel like at least with what you see like on some of these like bands like social media or like the bands that they're touring with, it's like this like a rising tide lifts all boats kind of vibe, right? So it's like one band does good, and they may like share a fiddle player between like a couple of bands, and they like bring them on tour, and they like kind of do this like ebb and flow as they kind of rise each other up. They're gonna, and it's similar to that in the podcast world. It's like if you get this like clique of like a podcast community, like we're always trying to like help each other out. Like what can I do to like promote you, and like we're kind of just jostling each other up as we go. And I don't know if that's a reality, but I do see that with at least some of the bands. Like, you might have like 4 or 5 different artists that are sort of, hey, this guy's touring this. Okay, we'll be the supporting act. And it's like, do this. Do you guys see that in real life?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think a lot of what I've learned about what the music industry is relationships, man. And, there's pros and cons to that reality, but like, I would say that, we're very fortunate, and we have a team of people that manage the band and that book for the band that I think have a pretty clear like understanding of like what it takes to be successful on the road and to not kill yourself while you're doing it. And so that's a huge, I mean, you nailed it like right on the head, man. Like that's a huge strategy point for our 2023 calendar is like big anchors. So, that equates to like a festival play or a really great, PAC, Performing Arts Center, where you're getting like a big chunk of money and there are going to be butts in the seats for sure. Or, getting around with other bands that have, as much of a draw as we do in the region. Or really for us right now, we're trying to get on tours with bands that have more of a draw in the region. We're happy to open for bands that we like that are bigger than us in different regions, and we're happy to reciprocate that. There's a lot of that kind of trading going on behind the scenes, and in a lot of bands that people see that play together a lot, typically are on the same recording label or might share a booking agent or might share a manager. So there's all these like, behind the scenes relationships that are getting bands around the country. So yeah, we fully like see that. And we, we have a list of bands that the three of us love that we want to like fucking hang out with, man, and like get around with. And like, we're about to go out on the road in February for a handful of shows in California with a band called Head for the Hills that we've known for a few years. And we love those guys, and we're stoked to like get some real like FaceTime with them and actually like, get out and hit the road with them. So it's cool. Yeah. And it's good for everybody. You're totally right. I mean, if you, I think I've heard from some friends that are a little bit more in the rock world that they've noticed how like bluegrass is definitely very friendly. Like we all super love each other. And, you know, I and Fred and Alyssa have had the opportunity to meet a lot of our like legit heroes, man. Like, you know, we're playing festivals with bands that we've all been listening to since we were kids and like have been going to see at festivals and concerts. So it's been like fucking crazy. But yeah, that's all part of it, is like getting to meet those folks and you get to be a part of this like national scene. And again, the bluegrass world is just like small and it's tight knit and everybody's like super down to be, you know, your friends. So it's cool. It's been great. You know,